All right, all right, all right. Hopefully, this live stream is working, but I am very excited for the very first Speaking Sessions Virtual Summit. I hope you're ready because we've got some great speakers coming along here to teach us on their specific industry and the message that they want to share. The Speaking Sessions Virtual Summit is all about helping people be able to get on stage, be able to start sharing their message, to be able to help impact the world. Because as speakers, we have that ability and that gift to be able to help out this world. And so I want to be able to bring speakers in. So we've got several speakers for you tonight. Our first one is going to be Phil Swanson. So let me get him in here, and then we're going to do a little intro, and he is going to take off with his speech. But Phil, appreciate you coming here. Phil is the founder of Go Lead Everything, also known as GLE, as you'll see on his hat there, and host of the GLE podcast. He's an entrepreneur turned entrepreneur, husband, father, bringing faith, love, truth, and courage to a world promoting fear, hate, anti-truth, and conformity. Visit goleadeverything.com and subscribe to Phil Swanson on his YouTube channel. Follow, rate, and review the GLE podcast on Apple Podcast and Spotify, and follow Phil Swanson on social media. I promise you won't be disappointed. But Phil, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you to go ahead and give us your message for tonight.
Philip Sessions, thank you, man. Can we give it up for Phil for putting on this live event? This is pretty cool. And I got to say, he's got a pretty nice name, too. I don't know if it's the Philip with one L thing going on or if it's the PS initials, but something I really like about Philip. But seriously, though, Philip, thanks for having me, man. Well, it's a new year, folks, and many of us are thinking about personal development. If you're like me, I know I'm thinking about what I'm going to do in 2024 and beyond over the next 2, 3, 5 years. I didn't used to think about personal development the way I do now. And so I want to give you some encouragement and some things to think about as you're embarking on your 2024 personal development journey. Once upon a time, I was in college. I was a college student, engineer, in training, going to school, playing a little D2 baseball. If you're an athlete in college, you know that, especially at a non-big name school, it's not exactly the glamorous life. I think it's funny. The most common question I get when I tell people I was a college athlete is, Phil, why didn't you go play pro sports? And it's always a funny, like, I don't really know how to answer. It's like, well, I just liked engineering so much. I gave up the pro sports path to pursue that instead, right? Like, no, that's not really what happened. But, my senior year, where they did these like spotlight videos, and you could probably still find this interview online. They're interviewing me, talking about, hey, Phil, what's your vision for the future, next steps? And the extent of my vision at the time was to literally just get a job at a school. That was like as far out as I could see. And it's no surprise if you went to my Facebook at the time, under the section favorite books, you'd see 2 words: who reads, with a question mark. Who reads? Like, I didn't even read. I had no personal development journey. What a big audacious goal to get a job. And as you might imagine, I very swiftly accomplished that goal when I got out of school, becoming a job holder. And, I got promoted quickly. I thought I was pretty hot stuff. I was a captain of football, baseball, basketball in high school, 2-year captain in college, got into the corporate world, got asked to do some volunteer type leadership stuff with my church, vice president, with my HOA, president of my HOA, with, I got on a jury, the only jury I've ever been on. I was asked to be a jury foreman. And so I had this like, hey, these leadership roles keep like coming to me. Maybe I have some like natural leadership ability that I need to pursue that needs to be shared with the world. And so jump forward to COVID. I was married, owned my first house, was doing some of that grown-up stuff, had my first child on the way, working from home, had a little bit of extra time. thought, heck, we'll start the GLE, the Go Lead Everything podcast, because I had the audacity to think at the time that I had some leadership knowledge that really needed to be shared with the world, which is funny to think back now as I've embarked on even just a couple 3-year journey of personal development. I had read some books at the time, never really studied personal development. I grew up in a Christian home, and a lot of the stuff that we read was more theology, church fathers, pretty unique Christian upbringing, where we actually studied a lot of detailed teaching and doctrine on what Christians believe, which was really helpful. And we were kind of steered away from some of the Think and Grow Rich, manifest destiny mindset, speaking into existence, magic juju type of, that's how I thought about it. Really, it was like, stay away from those books. Like you got to be careful around those books. And they were too much about what you needed to do and not enough about what God did for you. And, as I've been on this journey, I've realized that I still have a ton to learn about personal development, about leadership, and about faith in general. So, I could be wrong here, but if you're here on this Philip Speaking Sessions podcast, this live stream, then you're probably into personal development. Since I've been on my journey for a few years now, I'd like you to throw out some favorite books. Like, what are some of y'all's favorite personal development books? I know we're all studying. If you want to throw them in the chat, feel free. What books are you reading? Like for me, ones that come to mind, Napoleon Hill, 16 Laws of Success, good stuff. The One Thing, Gary Keller, that's good stuff. Tony Watley, Side Hustle Millionaire. Ed Milet, Power of One More. Craig Siegel, Reinvention Formula. You got classics like How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. These are great books, right? Did anybody say the Bible? Which really isn't fair because it's not exactly a book. It's like a library of books. But did the Bible come to mind for any of you? I know for me, it wouldn't have a few years ago. If we were in a room together, this would work a lot better. But I got to ask, how many on here call themselves a Christian? I do. And this is not me being holier than thou. This is a question I ask myself a lot, including right now. How many are Christians? How many are some other faith? Maybe you believe some other faith. Maybe no faith. Maybe you think I'm agnostic, I'm atheist, whatever you want to call it. I don't have a faith. And the question I really pose to you is, have you really studied what you say you believe? Do you study your faith? Do you study the Bible if you're Christian? Have you studied the holy books of your faith? Have you, as someone who doesn't believe those things, have you even really studied or sought out whatever truth might be in books like the Bible or other holy books? The Bible says to study to show thyself approved. And it also says the truth will set you free. And as I've embarked in the personal development world, what I've realized is it likes to blend a little bit of truth with things that are very not true. And you probably think, Phil, that's a really harsh accusation. Who are you, Phil, to think you know the truth? Who are you to think you know what is right and wrong about the personal development world? Well, I don't, but let's compare. Let's look at some examples. So the personal development world says, meditate, empty your mind, let thoughts come and go. God's word says, meditate on God's law day and night. The personal development world says, love yourself, forgive yourself. God's word says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. And we pray that God forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Not to forgive ourselves. The personal development world says, if your spouse is bringing you down and ruining your vibe and keeping you from getting your goals and isn't supporting you, making you unhappy, then get a divorce. Go do you. You deserve better. But the Bible says, be the husband of one wife. Your body doesn't belong to you, but to your spouse. Not only if they make you feel happy. The personal development world says you only live once. Life is short. You've only got a short time here. YOLO. But God's word says you have access to an eternal life with the Father through Jesus Christ. You're an eternal being. The personal development world says you create your own destiny. But God's word says that he has foreordained your good works that you might walk in them. I'm not sure who said this quote, but I really like it. There's a mighty big difference between good, sound reasons and reasons that sound good. There's a lot of things in personal development that sound good, but are they truth? I don't know yet if they are or not, but I'm seeking, and I'd invite you to seek along with me. The godfather of leadership, John Maxwell, says that leaders know the way, they go the way, and they show the way. They know by reading, by seeking. Ask and you will receive. Seek and you shall find. Knock and it will be opened unto you. You don't have because you don't ask. So ask. They go the way, they apply their knowledge. They're the example. They go with faith and courage as an example for others around them, putting that knowledge into practice. And they show the way. They teach. They speak the truth in love. The way you speak matters. We must speak the truth in love. We live in a world today that promotes fear, hate, anti-truth, and conformity. If you haven't seen that over the last few years, then you haven't had your eyes open. Leaders in this world are willing to be offensive. They're willing to exemplify faith that moves mountains, love that conquers all, truth that sets free, with courage that's contagious. As you go on your development journey, don't conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by renewing your mind daily with the Word of God. And that's leadership. Philip Sessions, thanks for having me on, man. And y'all go lead everything.
Awesome. Phil, man, that was a great job. I really appreciate you sharing that inspirational message for us that's brought from the Bible. And yeah, leadership through the Bible, I believe, is the best way for us to do that. I really appreciate you being here. So, all right, well, let's go on to our next speaker. I hope you enjoyed them. Our next speaker is going to be Dimitri. Going to bring him up here. Excited for him to share his message in the construction space, which is where he's from. Probably one of the hardest working guys that I know out there. Every time I'm talking to him, he's always working hard. He's reached 8 figures in 2 years in his construction businesses. He's got several different ones. But Dimitri, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you to be able to share your message with us today.
All right. I'm on. Everybody can hear me? Perfect. Good. So my name's Dimitri. I just kind of want to go into a quick introduction. So I'm an immigrant. I came to the U.S. When I was 13 from a country called Belarus. That's right next to Russia and above Ukraine, next to Poland to the east. So when I was actually here, first I went into college. So I got a degree in agriculture. I did research, and the degree was in research. But it was, even though like my relatives are actually in research, like my uncle's a chemist. So that's how I got into it. But I was always selling something on the side, and I really liked like the what you eat, kind of like what you kill is what you eat approach. So I would always do something on the side that involved sales. Uh, so eventually, I graduated in 2009 with a degree in applied plant sciences and biochemistry, so I could work in agricultural research. And then from then on, pretty much the whole time, I was still selling something on the side. So I worked for the big guys, Syngenta, Monsanto, and then the last company was called KWS, which is a sugar beet breeding company out of Germany. So in all of these things in my life, it's like basically I'm just kind of like learning what I like and what I don't like. What I really learned is that basically it's really hard for me to work in a corporate environment. And I think a lot of people say that, but I'm willing to do pretty much anything to not be in that, kind of like it feels like you're always like battling coworkers, or it's like there's always some kind of a game that I don't even know if you can actually win. You know what I mean? It's just always like everyone's trying to hold each other down. Like you don't want to look much better than the other person. I really liked environments when you can, as hard as you want to go, is what you actually bear the fruits of. You know what I mean? So since 2015, my relative had like a construction company, a roofing company in Minneapolis, which is where I was residing at the time. And I started selling roofs on the side while still continuing the corporate work. After 2 years, I basically stopped doing the corporate work. But during that time, I got my master's degree out of Washington State, online degree. And, in research, basically, without having a PhD or maybe even a postdoc, you can't really progress very much. So that's why I went in full time into sales. And I sold from 2015 basically to about 2019. My biggest issue again there is that, and it's partly due to the industry and partly due to like circumstances, that it was really hard to get paid in full for your sales. So let's say you sell about 1 million in Minnesota. Even though you sold that much, technically you didn't, because, the work has to get done at a certain point and you only get paid once all of the checks get collected. That's how insurance industry basically works. So even though on paper you sold 1 million, you might only get paid 80 grand, even though you're owed 200 or something, or 150. And, and then it takes about 2 years to get that 200. And at that point, basically you're only making 100 a year. So, and then some people are actually nefarious and they don't really want to pay you anyway, which is kind of what my last experience was. After in 2018, after a season in Minnesota, and it was kind of a slow season, but I still sold about 1 million. Didn't really fully get paid because I didn't close out the jobs. Like I said, I went to North Carolina with a company that kind of had a reputation for not paying, but it was just kind of, there were no other options. So we started out there with them, and it was the same rigmarole. And I sold about 1.6 million in 4 or 5 months or something like that, and got paid like 30 grand. And then I was like, all right, that's it. I got to start my own company. I can't, take advantage of myself. So we did that. And then, but myself, in another 6 months, I sold 2 million. And then I hired some guys and we did 5 million the next year. And then we're doing about 2.5 to 3 million right now, up until 2023. And now I'm actually in Boca Raton. So we're going to have 2 offices. But all of this is a journey into figuring out like what works for me and the people that I work well with, and we could actually grow together. Because I really don't think you could work with anybody. I think it takes a very certain kind of person to work together. And maybe I'm more difficult to get along with others. Willing to admit that all day, but it's just like there's certain like non-negotiables with me anymore. There's basically, I work really hard. And if someone, they think like I have to work, they don't understand what goes on behind the scenes. So basically, if you're just out there selling roofs, I can go out there, sell with you, but that's only 20% of the job. Now you got to make sure there's quality, there's financing, there's collections, there's advertising, there's marketing. So as long as people basically work well with me, I'm willing to work with them. But I'm past the point where it's kind of like somebody just shows up and they do whatever they want. and expect to get paid more than me, you know? So all those things I learned over the years of who I will work well with, how to get along with others, and how to build a good sized business, you know, and then how to diversify and deal with taxes. So I think I have very actionable suggestions for anyone in probably any business of how to scale it and how to how to utilize it to the best possible ability. I think that's what my core strength is now. So besides the construction company, now I have a trucking company. I'm doing e-com, and I got some rentals, as well as some other minor businesses like hard money, because of we're doing some flips as part of the construction. So I started to basically self loan the flips for myself. Don't really do it for a whole lot of other people, but I can. But I think that's my strength. I think I really can see if the person would work well with others, depending on their personality, and then help people identify their vision and then kind of get them to that. Because that's what I really. It took me a while to figure out what I really want, but now that I'm crystal clear on that, it makes it a lot easier to do. So that kind of basically summarizes it. To be honest with you, I think I'm right at the time limit. So, Philip.
Yeah, Dimitri, appreciate you sharing a little bit about yourself. Definitely can tell you're from Eastern Europe with the super hard work ethic and everything. Just, hey, we're going to figure it out. And that's what I love about, well, first from you, but then also a lot of Eastern Europeans. They're always hungry, always working super hard. And we appreciate you coming on and sharing about yourself and helping us understand a little bit about the journey of what it looks like to be able to get success as an entrepreneur. I appreciate you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. If anyone has any questions, you can always reach out to me. I'm willing to help,
Sounds great. All right. Well, our next speaker we've got coming in is Eric Allen. And he actually didn't put this in his bio, but I'm going to go ahead and say it because he says it all the time, that he has interviewed amazing people like Ed Mylett. And here he is laughing because he knows I give him a hard time about that all the time. I'm really just jealous on the inside. But Eric is a husband, father, host of the Eric Allen Show, which is ranked in the top 1.5% of all podcasts. He's a John Maxwell certified coach. Prior guest, well, Ed Mylett, as we said, but also Brad Lee, John Gordon, Heather Monahan, David Meltzer, and many more, and soon to be me. Now, I mean, you had the B-list celebrities, and I'm the A-list there. I'm just kidding. Now, Eric, we are excited to have you on to come share your message. Go ahead and take it away. Eric, you're on mute. Let's see, I got you.
So sorry, guys. I did not have the mute button off. That was a good start. Hey, man, so excited to be here and honored to be here, Phil. Hey, I just wanted to start off this speech today with a little bit of a song. And this is not me, but you can hear this, hopefully. Tennessee, 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 Tennessee. Lord, so hopefully you heard that song. But if you did hear that song, it's a song it's a song called Tennessee from a band called Arrested Development. And it was the very first CD that I ever owned. I was in middle school. My dad bought me this 5-disc changer and had the 5 discs on the top with the dual cassettes, right? And the big speakers on the side. I wore that disc down, man. I listened to that song and that album over and over again. And the name of that album is 3 years, 5 months, and 2 days in the life of. A strange name for an album. But what that is it's their journey that reflects this relentless pursuit towards success. See, it took them that long to land a record deal. I mean, talk about not quitting. I later had Speech, the lead singer of Arrested Development, on my podcast. And it was so cool to hear his journey from him directly and talk about the music they're putting out. In fact, Arrested Development just dropped a brand new album on Friday. So good. But little did they know when they released that album that it would sell millions and millions of copies. Now, if we consider the Chinese bamboo, it takes 5 years of consistent watering every day. Yes, every day, before it breaks through ground. But once it breaks through, within 5 months, it jumps to 90 feet tall. How many of us are committing to our goals, our dreams, and our purpose every day, watering them with this like unwavering determination, no matter how long it takes, right? See, when you're fighting for your goals, your dreams, and your purpose, you have to have a 3 years, 5 months, and 2 days in the life of mentality. Now, a quick glimpse of my story is I came from a broken home. I grew up where I thought was a typical household, Sunday school, Little League, etc. Parents got divorced when I was 11 years old. My mom got together with a guy who was very physically abusive almost immediately. When I was 13 years old, I fought him off my mom with a cast iron pan. I smashed his face in twice with a cast iron pan. And that set off a path of destruction for the next 10 years of my life, where I would move back to live with my dad through the last half of high school. And he wasn't around much, so I got into drugs and drinking very early on. And then when I was 18 years old, I was still a senior in high school, and I got arrested for having a bong. Yes, a bong. In 1998, it was actually illegal to have a bong where I lived, and so I had to go to jail. Dayton, Washington, 145 pounds, black and white chain gang outfit on, bright orange slippers. And then 2 weeks after I graduated high school, I woke up to a Post-it note on the bathroom mirror that said, "You can't comply with house rules. You have 48 hours to get out." And so between the ages of 18 and 21, I would move 21 times, lived off of credit cards, holding a job for a couple months here, staying at this place for 3 days, staying at a place there for 3 days, right? Moved to Seattle, Washington with $100 in my pocket was one of those moves. And when I was 21 years old, I was $28,000 in debt and had to file bankruptcy. And then I landed a job with Universal Records, which was a dream job of mine. Now, I didn't do anything special. I was just the guy in the mailroom tracking sales and stuffing posters, but it still got me to 2 to 3 concerts a week with open tabs and got to hang out backstage with rock stars. And on my 1-year anniversary, I got laid off because of a little thing called Napster. If you used Napster, drop an emoji in the chat for me, because that was what ended the music business, right? Thank you for using Napster. That ended my career in the music business. But, I ended up working at Starbucks as a night manager. I had no direction of life. I didn't even think I would make it to 40 years old. And then one night a girl walked in and invited me to a church event. And she said, "Hey, we've got a cool college age event down at our church. Would you be interested in going?" Now I was depressed. I had no friends, and she was good looking. Yep. What time do I need to be there? Right. And I went there and ran into some guys that I knew from previous couple years earlier. And I think God was starting to plant a seed in me. A month later was Easter 2004. I woke up after a night of partying and felt God just taking me out of that situation. He said, "Dude, you're going down this path that's going to end your life if you don't start making some changes." And so for me personally, I gave my life to Christ right then and there. And I quit cold turkey, drugs, drinking, cigarettes, everything at that moment. And I changed the environment from the party scene to finding guys in the church that had great marriages, great walks with Christ. They had great businesses. And 11 months later, I was married to that girl. And we've been married for 19 years this month or in March of this year. And together we're breaking the chains of divorce, abuse, rejection, and addiction. We're changing the legacy for our kids, right? They won't have to live through the craziness that we both lived in, right? So how do you find your purpose? It starts with mindset. So in life, you have two options, right? You can have this victim mindset where you expect the worst, or you can have this overcomer mindset where you anticipate the challenges and they're going to come, but you have the power to break through them. And like Phil said, when I spoke with Ed Milet, he told me about an acronym that really changed my perspective on life, but it was the acronym CANI, constant and never ending improvement. See, I always want to be, sorry about that. I always want to be improving as a podcaster, as a speaker, as a father, as a husband. Man, a mindset begins with a decision. And so you get to choose, like, as you embark on this journey to discover your purpose, you're going to encounter naysayers and haters, and people are going to try to talk you out of your purpose because they don't have the same vision as you. And the question is, are you going to let them sway you, Or is your mindset going to fuel this fiery passion for your purpose? See, too many people quit on their dreams. Don't be one of them. I mean, when Noah heard from God that he was supposed to build this boat in the middle of the desert, people saw him building this boat. They probably thought he was crazy. Like, they probably made fun of him. They tried to talk him out of his purpose. They told him the flood wasn't coming, that it was crazy, right? But here's the thing. God said, bring your wife, bring your sons and their wives. He didn't say, bring your neighbors, bring your co-workers, bring your cousins, bring your family, and especially bring your in-laws, right? He was on that boat for over a year. I certainly want to be on a boat with my in-laws for over a year. I don't know about you, but for me, it wasn't that way, right? Like Jeremiah 29:11 says, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and for not for disaster, and to give you hope, give you a future and a hope, right? And so every person will experience a moment in the journey of their life where you have to fight for what you believe in, right? You have to fight for your goals, your dreams, and your purpose. Now, that could be a marriage that you're fighting for, or a rebellious kid, or it could be a toxic work environment or a toxic family member. Are you willing to fight for your goals, your dreams, and your purpose, or will you give up? See, we all get to choose what we want our lives to look like. Do you have a 5 years? Do you have a 3 years? It could be longer, but do you have a 3 years, 5 months, and 2 days in the life of mentality? Will you be a victim or will you claim victory? Right? So you get to choose on that stuff. You get to choose the life that you want, right? And so I just want to say thank you to Phil for having me on. I hopefully this was able to encourage somebody. But listen, once you realize that your past and other people's opinions of you doesn't define your future, that's when you can step into your purpose. That's when you can make an impact and have the confidence to know that your purpose is for you and that you can go out and change lives. Step into that. Don't be scared. Keep going. I believe in you. Everyone on this call believes in you. They wouldn't be on here. So keep going. Keep changing the world. I believe in you. Phil, I'm going to pass it back over to you, man. Dude,
I did the same thing as you. So I love it. We have to have the overcomer mindset for sure. Yeah. And too often I think we think about, in the next week, in the next maybe year at most, that we think something will happen. And it really takes us so much longer to get where we really want to go and really have other people recognize us for that. So really appreciate you sharing that message. So, all right. We're going to go on to our next speaker now. But Eric, once again, thank you so much. So we're going to go ahead and bring Carolina here, Dr. Carolina Lebrecki. She is a holistic behavioral consultant and life coach who specializes in assisting individuals ranging from teenagers to adults of all ages in reducing stress, reaching their full potential, and living more balanced lives. Whether you are diagnosed with ADHD, ADD, ASD, PTSD, anxiety, or have no diagnosis, Carolina's approach focuses on the individual and not the label. She truly believes that everyone is capable of having a fulfilled, happy, and balanced life, and her mission is to help others achieve it. Now, Carolina, go ahead and share with us your message today. We are looking forward to hearing from you. All right, maybe Carolina is not there. I apologize. So I'm not hearing her. We are going to go on to our next speaker then. No worries there. So Tanya, we're going to go ahead and bring Tanya in here. So Tanya, we're excited to have you here. So Tanya is our next guest now. She took Whitney Houston's I'm Every Woman song very seriously. She's a mother of 5, the last 3 being triplets, with 1 being autistic. She owns a real estate company, an insurance company, an event planning company, and is a coach and mentor transforming people's mind, body, and soul. Her dynamic personality, loving charm, and wicked humor are infectious. And this earth angel is bound to say something we just haven't heard yet. Please give a warm welcome to Tanya Vargo. And we're so excited to hear you speak, Tanya. So go
Thank
ahead.
you for having me. I'm so excited, and I feel very blessed to be here with you and having been invited and honored to be here with everybody else. And yes, my name is Tanya Vargo, and I own multiple businesses. And tonight I was given the honor to share the top 5 things men can do to get their point across without using words. And so this is for men who are trying to level up a relationship, take it to the next level, improve. Like these things, these tools, these ideas will also help improve your relationship and excuse me, help you maneuver through, those emotional things you want to say, but you don't quite know how to say them. So, if you permit, I'll assist you. And I'm going to give you this top 5 things, killer list, of things you can do to get your point across without using words. And it can be found, it's also a blog on my website. So if you happen to not take notes, you can check out my Mind, Body, and Soul mentor.net website and just go to the blog section and find it. So the number one first thing you can do without using words is to send a song. It's already done for you, right? The sentiment's worked out, the words are worked out, and it's free. You can just send it on. And we love stuff like that. It'll be seen as so romantic, and we'll be so thankful that you were thoughtful to take time out of your day and think of us while you were away from us. And so a song, that'll do it. It'll do everything. And then, we like to save those things as well, right? The second top thing you can do to get your point across without using words is to send flowers or a gift. And it doesn't have to be big, expensive, or crazy at all. I know most men go to thinking about shoes and handbags and things like that when it can be really something small. And something like sending flowers, each flower has its own meaning. And then in addition to that, the color of the flower has its own meaning. So you can just jump on Google and Google roses and then Google the color of the rose you want to send. So like a yellow rose means friendship. If you don't mean to be friends, I wouldn't send a yellow rose type thing, so it doesn't have to be a big deal. Another, like it could be simple as sending a latte with a little heart on it. Starbucks loves helping with that. And if you don't know what kind of latte your favorite female friend or the person you're in a relationship likes, just ask one of their friends. It's real simple. Friend, family member, coworker that might know. But that's the only sneakiness we accept. But we enjoy that you would go through that trouble and collect that kind of intel, right? So it doesn't have to break the bank. It can be so little, and you will get the exact same reaction you would get if you would have bought something ginormous, because it all means the same to us. We don't have like a point system with it. We just love that you thought of us away from us and planned something and got it, and woohoo, we'll be over the moon for it. Okay. So the third top thing you can do, and this really will fall in alignment with most men's personality and what they would want to do anyway, is that just figure something out to do for her that removes stress or burden from her life, right? This is your opportunity to be the good guy, Superman, a man of action. So you can just jump in and just think about something she needs. Does she need something fixed? Does she need something moved around her house, her office, carried, organized? Does she need some phone calls made? Like, real simple free stuff. Drive somewhere, pick something up, buy the food, order the food. A lot of none of it really requires money, and we'll just feel taken care of and like you care and things like that. And it puts us in our feminine energy, And we will relax so much because you are trustworthy, right? And that's what y'all want to be anyway, right? Trust is very, when we trust you, you feel loved. So you'll get a lot of trust and respect out of doing things like that. The fourth big thing you can do is just remember things. Remembering things, that means so much to us, and it'll tip us off immediately that you're interested and you're sure and things like that. So one way you can demonstrate that you remember is just by saying, yeah, I remember that. And if you saying that matches up with your actions, we'll believe you and we'll feel pretty solid and connected and grounded in that. So the fifth and final thing might not be your favorite, but it's non-sexual contact, right? Because let's be real, we live in an oversexed society now. And we know you want to have sex with us. We know. And if you've spent any time in the dating pool, it moves so fast and you're pummeled. So if you're the guy that just kind of gives her a minute and takes it slow, does the small things like forehead kisses, hand holding, it'll give her time to think about how she feels and what she wants, and you're going to get a whole lot more from her, and it will be expansive because she's not trying to sort out some ulterior motives. You just give her a minute, no non-sexual contact, and you'll see things change, So unselfish, non-sexual touch is the fifth and final one. So if you use some of these, give them a shot. It'll boost your confidence, and you'll want to maybe eventually test out using words, once you feel like, hey, yeah, this is working for us. It's working. You feel confident. You feel solid, right? You want to move forward. Your chest is expanding. You want to beat it. And you're like, yes. So give it a shot. Try words after that, And despite what you've been taught, being vulnerable, being emotional, doing meaningful things are actually what we want and we desire. And because you're not using words and they won't be being used in this instant, you might want to do like a jab cross with this so that we can be certain, but at least it's not a triple double. So that's what I have for you this evening. Please reach out to me or Philip if you would like a copy of these notes, or you can check it out on my mindbodyandsoulmentor.net blog. And there's other information there for free that you can check out.
Yeah, Tanya, thank you so much. I definitely need some of these tips because being a speaking coach, I talk all the time. So I need to learn how to show love without talking. So definitely took that one. If you ask my wife, she says I talk too much. So I need to figure out how to talk less and yet show the same amount of love. But I appreciate you. On a serious note, I appreciate you coming on and sharing that. That's definitely a valuable lesson for us men, especially to be able to take. But I think that can even some of those things can apply to women trying to
100%,
show love and affection to men as well.
That's true. I usually try to gear it towards helping men a little bit, but it definitely will help anybody that's having a problem expressing emotion, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Tanya, thank you again for coming on. So, all right. Well, Carolina, I'm going to give a short, condensed version of your intro since we kind of introed you and then we had technical issues. That happens with live stream, but that's all right. We're glad that you're here now. But Dr. Carolina Lebrecki is a holistic behavioral consultant and life coach who specializes in assisting individuals ranging from teenagers to adults of all ages in reducing stress, reaching their full potential, and living a more balanced life. Go ahead and share with us your
Talking
method.
about stress, right? Had to switch laptops in the midst of it because technology sometimes. So
we're excited
glad
to hear
that
from
it's
you.
all fine now. So hi everyone. So stress. Anyone stressed lately? A little bit of stressed out, burnout. Some of us maybe would like to go from that to happy and productive. So today I wanted to talk about the 5 things that can get you there. But before that, I will take you a very quick story about myself. I was actually born in Warsaw in Poland, and I'm last generation that lived in communism, moved here to Texas for high school, and then came back and moved back for my degrees to Poland, to Warsaw. Got my master in psychology and my PhD in physical therapy. So after all of that, I was stressed out and burned out. And I moved back to New Hampshire just to veg a little to Massachusetts to stay with my parents for a little bit of a gap time after it. And that's how I met my husband. And life was really good. We've moved to New Hampshire and, had a condo, built a house, had a dog, a cat, and a 2-year-old daughter at that time. But, life does happen, and it's not always all roses. And there is always some kind of a struggle and a thorn in the picture, even when it's a beautiful picture. So how many of you have dreams or goals and aspirations, but you are fighting with yourself? How many of you fight with your own beliefs and ask, have those thoughts about, I'm not worthy, I'm tired, this will never happen for me? Maybe you are fighting with a low self-esteem. Maybe some of you have depression or anxiety, or went through a ton of trauma as a child or as an adult, or maybe going through hell right now, maybe through a divorce. And how many of you are afraid of failure? How many of you feel like you are constantly fighting against your body and your mind? And I don't know, anyone guilty of it? Because even me sometimes have those little moments when I'm like, it's not so easy, right? It's tired. It's constant fight against the life. Well, it's not true. That's our perception. So let me define your path to befriending your life so you don't have to constantly fight it. So you can actually be with it and understand that life does not have to be a constant struggle and a fight. By engaging in very simple 5 quests, you can stop sabotaging yourself. And you can actually learn to believe in yourself. And you can embrace whatever life brings, being, for example, a software not wanting to work on a spot. So you embrace the self-love. You embrace the self-esteem, the self-confidence. So many people are not there yet. And that is what I really wanted to talk about today, of how to get there. As I mentioned, 8 years ago, I had a very semi-idyllic life. That was interrupted by a car wreck. So I live in New Hampshire. I was teaching at the local college, and right after the lecture I gave, I was driving to a client. And there is a Route 4, which is a state route, 55 an hour. It was March, light snow. An elderly woman was driving from the other side, and she stopped controlling her pickup truck, spun 360 into my line. And literally in a split of a second, I have to make a decision, either take her head on or ditch my car. I used to actually do a little amateur off-roading in my college years in Europe. So I knew what would happen to my car if I went off-road at the speed of 45 miles an hour into the trees and a ditch. So I chose the head-on collision, and apparently it was a good choice. The car did what it was designed to do, which the engine went under. The hood became a little bit of a, harmonic and accordion. The airbags deployed straight into my face, but I will take that over the fact that the steering wheel was heading the same way. So it was a better thing, in my opinion. I don't know where my glasses went. I think we found them in a trunk, and, my arms were a little beat up from the airbags and everything else. So after all was said and done, I looked up and I was like, okay, I'm alive. That's my first thought, right? My second thought was, okay, I've rode horses my whole life. So we have this little thing when you fell off the horse, don't move, check your body. So I'm like, okay, I can wiggle my toes. That's not too bad. My spine is intact. Okay, nothing bleeding profoundly, like not profusely. There's like a little bit scratches. I can breathe good. We good. And in all of that, my first thought was, of course, I'm a businesswoman, right? Let me call my client that I'm not coming today. So then I looked up and there was a woman running on the street screaming, my son, my son. And then I realized that the adrenaline dump really dumped my sugar low, and my blood sugar is not doing too good, and I'm kind of fainty. So in all of this house, within half an hour, I landed up in a hospital, got the x-rays and all of that, and found out that nothing is broken. Nothing is broken. All the bones are intact. I have scratches on my face, scratches on my arms, but other than that, I'm free to walk out even without the neck brace. My husband picked me up, and my daughter was at my parents already, so he took me down to my parents who live an hour away, and I stayed there over the weekend. He picked me up on Monday, that was a Friday, and took me back home. My daughter stayed behind. It was a good thing that she stayed behind, because as the week progressed, I started to notice that I am not okay. The balance was totally off. I could not focus for longer than 60 seconds. I lost the ability to handwrite. I was constantly nauseous. I couldn't speak in one language, forget the two before. And I was exhausted, constantly sleepy and exhausted. And being a PT, I know, okay, sweet pea, you got yourself a hell of a concussion. So I went back to hospital. They said, you have a post-concussion syndrome. And at that point, we didn't know how bad of a post-concussion syndrome I had. I ended up in rehab for 18 months. Somewhere along the journey, I forgot to mention that right after that, I also got pregnant with my son. So I had a baby in the midst of this. And in all of this, I always remember, it's funny that the speakers before me were mentioning Lord and God and the Bible. And I always remember that, okay, there has to be a reason. Lord has a plan for me. I may not understand the plan, but definitively there is a plan. So, I had to dig deep, really deep. I called upon my strong Polish woman personality and the stubborn mood that don't tell me what I can and cannot do. That was after a neurologist told me at about the mark of 2 years that he thinks that this is as far as I will ever go, and basically, go on a permanent disability, and get used to it. So I engaged in a private rehabilitation. The post-concussion center released me. They said, that's it. You're not going to progress. I said, oh, no, I will. I used some rehabilitation biohacking with Beamer, and I fully embraced the saying that your attitude defines your aptitude. I had to learn, and still am learning, how to be patient with myself. In turn, actually helps, because if you're patient with yourself, you are much more patient with other people as well. And interestingly, now I'm in a position to be a much better version of myself than I was before the car wreck. And I pivoted my business. I don't work with severe disabilities anymore. I used to work with severe autism and severe developmental disabilities. I learned to befriend my mind and my body and set fearless boundaries for myself and befriend my surroundings and understand my life quest. And I'm a lot more compassionate to myself and others, and I'm a lot more empathetic. And I love and respect my body and mind, which haven't always been true before. So I want to ask you, what setbacks have you had in your life with your body, your mind, or your soul? Maybe it's a death of your loved one. Maybe you had an injury and now prevents you from doing something that you love. Maybe it's a stress that paralyzed you, or you are not able to set the healthy boundaries and to say no to yourself or to others. Whatever that is, I really want you to clearly identify what is challenging you. I challenge you to put it on plain in a place to get the help you need, however that help looks like for you. It may be rehab, maybe coaching, maybe therapy, maybe mentoring. Remember that a setback is a setup for a comeback. Setback is never just a setback. I challenge you after this lovely session to get a paper and pen and to clearly identify what is holding you back from living a fully balanced life. Write down your answers so you can look at it every day and find ways that you can solve it. So we live in a chaotic world, and there's always going to be a curveball. Is your job causing you stress or maybe health issues? Are your family relations pushing you over the edge? Is your life really feeling fulfilling? Where are you in this? So in my own journey that I just told you about, I came up with those 5 very specific steps, very simple one. So let me show you how to befriend your life and put that plan in place that will allow you to have time to heal. Befriend your life by befriending your mind. Some of the speakers before me did mention that. You have to learn how to live with your various thoughts and feelings and how to thrive no matter what happens in the moment, and quiet down that internal dialogue. Befriend your life by befriending your body so that you can work with it and not against it. No matter how many disabilities there are, you can always find a way to work with that body. Think about your body as a car. You will only have one car in your life. Think about it. One car, no more. And think about how much maintenance you would put into that. And befriend your life by befriending your surroundings, building systems, and mapping out and understanding the quest that you are now. So I challenge you to put yourself first. I challenge you to be patient with yourself. And I challenge you to love yourself. I challenge you to love your body. I challenge you to love your mind. And I challenge you to befriend your surroundings so that they serve you. When you do all of those things, I promise you that you're going to be in a state of flow and you're going to be much better off. So my name is Caroline, and thank you very much for having me tonight, even with all those technical difficulties. If you want more, you can visit me at helptogrowinstitute.com.
Awesome. Thank you, Carolina, for coming on and sharing that message. We definitely need to take care of our minds and our bodies for sure, and really putting ourselves first as well. I think it's something that we don't think about doing, where especially if we have family and kids, we take care of the family and the kids before we take care of ourselves. But if we let our cup run out of water, out of love, how can we then continue to pour out? So we need to make sure we are full in order to be able to give that abundance out to our family and everything. So I appreciate that message. All right, let's go ahead and go to our next speaker, Eli Delaney. He is the automated system strategist and is also known as the People Whisperer. He is the creator of the follow-up Rockstar system, which is very incredible. Co-author and Amazon bestseller of Marketing Tidbits, 50 Quick and Easy Ways to Grow Your Business. Author of Networking Tidbits, 25 Ways to Connect, Grow, and Succeed Through Networking. With a passion for connecting people, his best-selling training course, Networking Like a Rockstar, has over 1,400 students registered globally. Eli helps speakers, authors, and coaches automate their follow-up to grow their businesses without having to have an MBA from MIT. For the next 3 years, he can help you follow up. And he is the guy to help you build a 24/7 automated system to turn you into a follow-up rock star. Eli, welcome. Take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Phil, for having me join today. It's my pleasure to come hang out. And before we get started, I'm going to ask everybody that is watching, listening, take out a piece of paper, take some notes, because I'm going to give you a bunch of stuff that's going to be actionable items. I love to walk away from any event with something to specifically do. And so that's how I teach. And so you want to have something to write with, close any distractions. Now, as Philip had talked about, I am a speaker. I have been a speaker since 2008. I've been helping other speakers, coaches, consultants, people that are basically industry experts of any degree, grow their businesses using automation, tools, technology. I've been doing that for over 15 years. So I've got some background in this. I have a lot of fun with it. And my goal is to automate everything I can, delegate what I can't, and delete the crap I shouldn't be doing anyway. And that's what I help my clients with. I call that my entrepreneur ADD, by the way. And one of the things that a lot of people misconstrue what automation is good for. And with the rise of AI, it's getting even worse. I want you to stop and think about not how can we have all these tools and technology do everything, but why do we want them to do everything? For me, the reason that I have all these things set up in my business, and these are the things that I help my clients with, is because my goal is to give myself back, buy back the time that I have in order to do things that I can't automate, delegate, or delete. And that's all about relationships. For me, what it says right above my head, me equal people, that's what it's about. My favorite thing in the world is to get out there, meet cool people, have great conversations. One of my favorite things out there is to go have meals with people and just get to know them. Hear what's going on. How did they get started in what they do? What are they interested in? How is it that they help their clients? Because I do work primarily B2B, and not just how do they help their clients, but what is that feeling that they get? Because if there's a passion behind it, there's excitement behind it, that's where we know there's something good. And so that is where everything I do is based around that. We use the tools and technology, and nowadays automation guys are a dime a dozen. Okay. Back when I started doing this, there wasn't very many of us. So I've got a lot of fun to be able to do some things that were not even capable of being done back then. And now they're all over the place. But the reality is relationships matter. And when I talk about meeting cool people, it's all about relationships. It's about how do you have a conversation with somebody and have that conversation lead to a lifetime relationship, people that'll stick around forever. I'm a firm believer that the people that you meet are going to get you anywhere you want to go in life. You just have to have the right conversation with the right person. And that's where I think right now, as we're going into 2024, one of the things that we've had a problem with these last few years is not having enough deep, real conversations with people. We're having conversations that are surface level. We're having arguments. We live in a very polarized world right now, and it's got to stop. We've got to get to a point of how can you and I have a cool conversation? Whether we agree on everything or not doesn't matter. How can we agree on one thing, sit across the table and smile, have a good time, have a good conversation? Because that's what's going to heal a lot of the problems we've had these last couple of years. Now we can go back to the business side of things. And, some of the things you should be doing, you should be staying in touch with your prospects or clients on a regular basis. And when we talk about that, it's not how do I sell them every day? How do I pitch them the new, latest, greatest thing? How do I extract as many dollars from them as I can? They're not an ATM, they're human. But how can I reach out to them and let them know that I care? And by the way, this happens on both personal and business. I'm sure we've all got that one relative that the only time you ever hear from is when they want something from you. Well, a lot of times businesses are the same way. Most of the time, that's how they work. That's not what we want. You want to create clients who will stick with you and love you for life. Just reach out to them and stay in touch with them. Ask them how their day's going. Start a conversation. One of my favorite things that I love to do, I always keep this book right on my desk, is I talk about The Go-Giver by Bob Burg, which is, by the way, it's an awesome book. You highly, highly, highly should read this, okay? By the way, it's not very thick. It's an easy read. You can read it over the weekend. Go pick up a coffee and read it this weekend. I will share that book with people. And my favorite thing about it is that it was introduced to me by a friend probably 15 plus years ago. I read it, loved the idea, realized that's how I live my life. I live by the whole concept of the go-givers. How do you give first? Knowing that karma will return. People will come back and you'll get the good stuff back. It may not be from the same person, maybe with somebody else. That's okay. You don't know where it's going to come from. But what you do know is that it will come back at some point, and your job is to just give as much as possible. Add value. Ask people what's going on. Give them advice. Give them suggestions. I just suggested The Go-Giver. Now, if you go pick that book up and you read it, it's going to impact your life. That makes me happy. That makes me know that I did something right. I made a positive impact in your life. That's what I do every day. I wake up with the idea of who am I going to make a positive impact for today? By the way, we have these really cool things. They're not just for surfing cat videos. They actually do this thing called a phone. You can actually pick up the phone. Find somebody you haven't talked to. Think of 3 people that you haven't talked to for a while. You can do this in both, again, personal and business. Pick up the phone and call them. Don't try to sell them anything. Just say, hey, I was just thinking about you. Just wanted to pop in, see how you're doing. What's up? What's new and exciting? You ever have a conversation with me, you'll hear me say that a lot. What's new and exciting? because I'm very much about that. What is new and exciting? What can we share? Because we want to share the wins. There's too many people in this world sharing the negative stuff. Let's fix that. What's the win that you got going on this week? I want to hear about it. And if you are struggling with something, I'd like to hear a little bit about that, because I want to see if there's anything I can do to help alleviate that. It's a mindset shift that if we just stop and take the time to have those kind of conversations, two things happen. On a personal level, your life will get much better. You'll attract some really amazing people that really truly care about you. And the great thing is, the one person that you help today may not be the person that helps you tomorrow, but I guarantee somebody else will tomorrow, next week, next year. Doesn't matter. From a business standpoint, I kind of go by the same thing. I know that I'm here to give value all the time, to share whenever I can. And at the end of the day, I know it's going to come back. If I help you today, I hope that you will just remember me. So when you're ready and you're like, okay, I'm ready to step up my business. I need to take this to the next level, and I need to buy back my time. I need to have a conversation with Eli, and you'll reach out at that point. Again, I don't care if that happens today, tomorrow, next month, next year, or in a decade. I actually had a guy reach back out to me over 10 years after he saw me speak at an event. He said, "Hey, Eli, my son's starting a company. I'm wondering if you can help us out." Literally a decade later, he reaches back out to me asking me to help his son's business. That's pretty powerful stuff. So think of those 3 people you haven't talked to for a while. Reach out to them. Now, think about on the business standpoint. You could do this today, by the way. All you have to do, write up a little email, simple. Subject line, "I'm a slacker." Throw yourself under the bus. It gives you the open rates every time. And you're just like, "I'm really sorry. I haven't stayed in touch with you the way I should. I know I need to do better. And I promise I'm going to do better starting with you. I would love to hear what's new and exciting. What have you been up to?" And just sign it. Don't try to pitch them anything. Don't try to sell them anything. Don't give them a link to your new freebie. Just send that out. Send that out to the people that have been your clients you haven't talked to for a while, or prospects you haven't talked to for a while. Find out what happens. I had a client who sent that out. We actually did a whole campaign for it, so there are 2 other emails that actually went with it. She sends it out on Monday. Tuesday morning, she emails me and says, "Hey, we need to stop the campaign. How do we do that?" So I'm on the phone with her. I'm trying to figure out, what do we need to stop? And she says, everybody replied. She ended up doing over $12,000 in sales by the end of the week, not selling anything. It really is that easy. Have a good conversation. Conversations will lead to sales. So that's what I got for you. I hope that this was helpful. I hope you took some good notes. If you'd love to connect with me, I would love to connect with you. I love meeting cool people, like it says above my head. And the easiest way to do that, go to connectwitheli.com. There's a spot to see some stuff I've got going on. You can go to book a call with me, open chat, not a pitch. I'd love to have a great conversation with you and see how can I help you, and see how we can have a great conversation. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Eli, I appreciate you sharing that great message. You're right. And that Go Giver book is an amazing book. And I truly believe the more that we give, the more in return that we will get, as long as we're not trying to give only just to get. So
Yes.
appreciate your message you're sharing here. And I love that idea of, hey, I'm throwing myself under the bus. Sorry I haven't been in touch with you. That's awesome. That's gold right there, just to get back in touch with somebody. Relieves all the awkwardness there, because you're like, look, I hadn't talked to you in a while. Let's talk now.
Yeah.
Essentially.
It works like a charm. It works like a charm. And please, I will say this to everybody. If you use it, please, number one, go use it. But if it does, connect with me. Let me know what happened. I love to collect those stories. I have dozens of them. And I'd love to hear how it helped you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Eli, thank you once again for coming on and sharing such a valuable message with us.
Thank you, my friend.
All right, we are going on to our final speaker for the night. We saved the water boy for last. We've got
What?
Justin Shoemaker here. He's a 10.5-year Navy vet, harbor security in the Middle East, anti-terrorism in Italy, doing executive protection out of the Pentagon. He grew a startup from $600,000 to $25 million in only 11 months, and now owns Clearwave Water Solutions, which is why he is the water boy. But Justin, we are excited to hear your message. So go ahead and take it away for us.
Yeah. Hey, Philip. Thanks for having me on. I'm going to try to make this little bit of time that I have as impactful as possible, and hopefully give as much value to everybody that listens to this as much as I can. And I wanted to try to think on what I could talk about that I have the authority to speak on, that I think can give people the most value. And I think what I want to talk about is just, coming from, where I grew up in Spokane, Washington, to going to the Navy to where I'm at now, it really put in light to me something very, very clear. And that is, being successful at any level is, one, accessible to everybody, but it all comes down to your choices. And I think what's really, really important, and I think where we get it messed up a lot, is there's different levels of success, and you have to first off choose what level do you really want to go to, and understand that whatever level you choose, you can get there. And I'm going to explain how in a minute, but we have, with social media, made success look very different than I'm sure some people's version of success is, right? You may decide you want to be the best father, best husband, whatever. That's successful. You may want to build a multi-million-dollar business. That could be your success. All comes with some level of sacrifice that you have to give up to achieve those things. I truly believe that. But at the end of the day, you have to choose it. You got to choose one and go for it. Now, throughout life, you can obviously change it, right? You don't have to stay with the same thing all the time, but you have to choose. And if you choose, you have to go all in. And to kind of illustrate why I think this is accessible to everybody, is I just want to compare two things that seem dissimilar, but are actually very similar. And that is bodybuilding and business, right? And I know, as you know, it's so funny. Before I joined the Navy, I wanted to go into special operations, and I weighed, I think, like 110 pounds, and I had to gain weight to even become physically fit enough or weigh enough to actually go into the Navy. So at the time, I would look at a bodybuilder and think, oh my gosh, that's so far beyond what I can do, which is probably how a lot of people in today's world feel, right? They see people on social media killing it. They see people on yachts, on boats, popping bottles, spending money, right? They see all these people living these lives that they think that they want. And it seems unattainable, right? The same way that if you look at Arnold Schwarzenegger, it probably seems unattainable, but it's really not. And it's only unattainable if you don't know the path forward. And my hope is to kind of show that path forward in more of a cloud sense, and then I'll try to get into the dirt of it at the end. But if you can imagine the greatest physical fitness person in the world, like I'm talking Arnold Schwarzenegger, or maybe Phil Heath, just the top of the chain when you talk about bodybuilding, and then you think of the top of the funnel when you think about business, the Bezos, the Musks, the Steve Jobs, whoever. The thing is, those people, anyone can technically be those people, right? You just have to do the same actions and the same steps and make the same choices that they made. So there's a theory in the fitness and bodybuilding community that it doesn't matter what your ethnicity is. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter how old you are. 45 pounds is 45 pounds. The weight is the weight. So the thing about getting big and becoming, let's say, an Arnold, there is a path on how to do that, right? You must lift the weight, and you must lift a lot of it. You have to eat for a long period of time. You have to train for a long period of time. You have to be consistent with all these things for a long period of time. You have to have your nutrition supplement stack set up the right way. And odds are you'll probably need a coach to get you from certain levels to different levels, right? You might need just a local gym guy to get you into fitness at first. But then if you're trying to go pro and become like an Arnold, you may need a professional bodybuilding coach to get you there, to get you on a training regimen, to track your progress, to make sure you're doing the right things. But at the end of the day, the work just needs doing. You just need to get up, you need to eat, you need to train, you need to lift the weight. And that 45-pound weight needs to be lifted. Doesn't matter if you're a man or a girl. And what's funny is it doesn't really matter what your genetics are. If you just lift the weight and you do it consistently, you can get there. But the Problem is you probably don't have a long enough time horizon to get there. Same thing happens in business. All right. You got to feed the business the right way. You got to train your teams. You got to train yourself. You got to learn about business. Okay. You got to deal with life that just happens. Right. And just like fitness, you have to have a long time horizon. The reason why businesses fail, the reason why business fail, they don't become successful is that everyone wants to get rich quick. They want to be the guru or the guy too quick. And they don't actually put a longer time horizon on what that looks like. The same way when people get into resolutions or do these fasts or do these diets and like, oh, I'm going to get ripped and fit this year. This is my year. That's too short of a time horizon. If you can only do something for a year, you shouldn't do it anyway, because the people that actually change their fitness and their lives do it for a long time. Same thing for business. If you're going to do a business, you need to do it for a long time, and you need to do the right things all the time to get there. But the beautiful part of that is it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter, where you start out in life, right? If you just follow the same steps and you follow people that have done it beforehand, you can be successful, which means you need, success leaves clues. You need to follow the clues that are left for you. So if there's someone that looks like you that's been there, you can get there too. And the best way is, number one, find the free stuff. Get out there and digest free information and find something that you might actually be really passionate about. And the reason why, and I can kind of speak on this, is when I got out of the Navy, my whole background was law enforcement, executive protection, anti-terrorism. But when you get out during COVID, all the cool jobs go away. Like my whole path was, I'm going to go work for a 3-letter agency. I had my TS clearance. I was ready to rock and roll, working for Secretary of Defense, Secretary of Navy. I was good to go, but life happens, right? So I needed to make some money, and I got into sales. And for me, that was the game changer in life. And for anyone out there, and now I'm going to switch gears. If you want to be actually financially successful, then sales or some sort of 1099 job where you can make commission is going to be the number one way for you to financially get yourself out of whatever rut you're into. I knew at the time I was in 20, 30K of credit card debt. At the end of those, year and a half, 2 years of getting into sales, completely reversed it around and almost had, I think, 110, 120 grand of cash with no, real education to lean towards that in my bank account. Complete 180 my life. Was able to start a business and do all these great things. But it started with a choice to go into something that I knew could make a lot of money, and I had to work at it. The problem is it'll take some sacrifice, and it's going to be hard. And what's crazy to me is if you look on social media, if you look at the world, everyone glorifies how hard success is. It almost is like this thing like, oh yeah, it's super hard, go get it, right? And even like the best movies that you watch, whenever the hero of the movie is going through something hard and gets through it, it's always romanticized. But the problem when you actually get into real life and you have real consequences and you have real sacrifice and you feel how hard that is, people quit because it actually sucks. Okay. That little high you see from social media doesn't feel that great when you're actually in it. When you're actually trying to make payroll, when you have people quitting and stealing from you, when you have to get sales in to keep the business alive, when, for me, for example, when I first got into sales, my loved ones were like, oh, I don't know if you should go into sales, right? It wasn't seen as like this high prosperous job, especially with my resume did not path me to do that, right? My entire life, my resume had me very, very qualified to get a very, very high paying federal government job with a lot of security and a lot of benefits. But, got to go with your gut. And I saw what the opportunity was over here and I stuck with it on a long time horizon. I'm still on that time horizon. It sucked for a while because I took a massive pay cut day one. Didn't have security, didn't have a safety net, didn't have money coming in. Mortgage, wife, and kids. Well, mortgage, wife, and dogs. I guess they're kind of like my kids. But that's it, right? And most people aren't afraid to do that. And I get it. There's a lot of situations where people can't. People are, they get strapped in or they get into this situation where they really feel like there is no escape. But the reality is there always is a choice. And sometimes that choice is harder for others. Sometimes you start out in a situation that makes that decision difficult. Maybe you don't have people around you that can actually help you go into the right direction. So my hope is if this message gets to you at all, that this is the message that you need to actually get on the right direction. And if you don't have a direction, if you don't know where to go, step number one, if you are just really in the worst area in your life with no role models, go join the military for 4 years. I know that sounds like crazy, but it completely changed my life. You don't have to do a full term, but 4 years will get you cultured. It'll get you worldly. You'll meet some amazing leaders. It'll make you grow up. You will get some perspective and you will learn some very valuable meta skills like being able to confront people, talk to people, and deal with stressful situations that will give you massive benefit in the real world. Then the last thing, and I'm a little biased because it did change my life, is go get a freaking sales job. Unless you have some other passion that you really want to do, the truth is money will buy you freedom. Okay. And the reality is you can be happy broke, you can be happy rich. I can tell you right now, having more money will allow you to do more things. And if you have a passion that you really want, if you can have a savings that allows you to do that passion without stress, that passion of yours will probably do much better. So I would highly recommend, if you're a hard worker or you want to try to get into that world, go get a sales job. There's plenty of industries out there, from water treatment to solar, to roofing, to alarms. They all pay very well. Find an area, find someone, go learn the skill. And I promise you, if you can dedicate yourself to it for a couple of years, you will set yourself life up financially to where you can then pivot to do really whatever you want to do. And yeah, that's my time.
Awesome, Justin. Appreciate you sharing that, and I agree with what you're talking about at the end. Really, the military side being getting that structure in place, and then going into sales to really have unlimited income essentially without having to go into your own business. But if you decide to go into your own business, very helpful skill set to have there for sure. So appreciate the message that you shared there with us. And so for everybody that's been watching this whole time, we appreciate you showing up, listening to all these amazing speakers. If you want to become a speaker yourself, if you want to see some other speakers come on, please let me know. You can shoot me a DM, and I should have had this ready for the live chat, but also go to my website, speakingsessions.com/virtual summit, where you can sign up and apply to be a speaker as well. We appreciate all of you attending, and a special thank you to all the speakers for your great message. I know it's not the easiest to get on stage, but you all did an amazing job there.